Hello everyone and welcome back one of these interview episodes of the SWW show. I'm Mike and today with me a special guest from decently around the world. To get us started, do you mind introducing yourself and the game we're here to talk about?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Eric, aka Ekberg. That's like my artist game developer name. And yeah, I'm a solo indie game developer from Berlin. And I'm working on my first commercial game as a solo developer. And this game is called Recollection. And it's like this calm and atmospheric casual game about nature. And I like to describe it as a walking and watching simulator. So it's like you're walking through this empty world and your mind is kind of empty and you're not seeing what's around you, and then you're in a hidden object manner, you're rediscovering things like natural things like trees and clouds and stuff like that, grass and water. And every time you discover something new, it's like a new mini game interaction. So there's pretty diverse gameplay, but it's all very chill and relaxing in the first game mode. So there's a second game mode that is quite the opposite and shows like humanity's destructive forces against nature. And yeah, then also it's not really relaxing anymore. There's more of a challenge and a bit more frustration actually, like as a design element, which is hard to do and also hard for like playtesters. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. Yeah.
So I
in a nutshell.
I gotta immediately ask, so you talk about this dichotomy of modes that you kind of came up with, right? And it's kind of this yin and yang in a lot of ways. Why did you decide to kind of go down that path, right? Was it like, hey, I want to create a game that's really one of them and I felt like this other mode should exist? Did you kind of is there some sort of like broader meaning kind of for you having this more yin and yang kind of format?
Yeah, this actually wasn't there from the beginning of development. It came during development of the game, because in the beginning there was just this nice and relaxing mode and reconnect with nature around you. And then at some point I realized, okay, this game is gonna have like, it's a very stupid reason actually for that had me come up with the second game mode, because I realized, okay, I'm not gonna get to much more than 1 hour of playtime with this game, except if I put a lot more interactions in there. And each interaction is like a new challenge, because I want to have something that is different enough from the interactions that are already there. And yeah, most games, like, they have this core loop, this core mechanic, and here we have, like, in my game, a lot of core mechanics, but on a more casual level. So they're not going very deep. And yeah, I thought, okay, yeah, but 1 hour is really short, especially since, like, the Steam refund threshold is like 2 hours. That's like one goal that a lot of indie developers are striving to reach, to reduce refunds. And I thought, how can I do this in like an efficient way? How can I increase the playtime and maybe add to the game at the same time? And yeah, I was thinking a little bit what I could do, and this second game mode came to my mind. It's like I'm reusing the same interactions, I'm reusing the same assets. That's pretty efficient. But like I'm completely flipping the tone and the challenge. And in the beginning, I thought, oh yeah, this is gonna be pretty easy to add, but later on, like it turned out that it was a lot more work than I had initially anticipated, because it's a whole other gameplay experience, even though it uses the same gameplay, and also it's hard to find. Like, I wanted to have it like narratively consistent. Like in the first game mode, you're discovering these objects with interactions that kind of fit these objects in a way. Like you're discovering water by spotting reflections, missing reflections, for example. And now for the second game mode, I had to like find something else narratively that fits with the gameplay, but also with the narrative of like showing, oh, I didn't mention this before, but the narrative is showing humanity's effect on nature. That this is what the second game mode and also the interactions should be about. So in total, I have like 11 interactions in there. Some are a bit recycled, but most of them rather unique. And yeah, this second game mode added a lot more complexity than I had anticipated. But I think it is worth it in the end because it feels like a much more impactful message now, and just like a fuller game. I think I'm barely below 2 hours, but maybe some players will take a little. I don't care anymore. I have to say.
I gotta ask because I think that Steam thing is something that I've always harped on too. That I think the 2 hours is such a weird and bad arbitrary limit. Like I understand there being some sort of like we need to check the game works for users, right? Like if we like there should be. I think there should be some sort of like windows or like this could be a 15-minute refund or half hour, whatever, depending on the game. Kind of, do you kind of, when you were thinking of that 2 hour limit and kind of how you would account for it, do you think it's negatively or positively or some sort of mix, like really affecting kind of, especially indie games or the games that you seem to want to make kind of, and like how these games have to get made now?
Well, I think it mainly is a factor for like small narrative games because they have to produce the content and like for non-replayable games, like replayable games, they easily cross this threshold, right? Especially the lots and lots of roguelikes we're seeing these days. And yeah, but for small narrative games, it's a thing to consider. But on the other hand, like, I think I've maybe considered this a bit too much. I think the numbers are actually not that high. Like it's probably around 10% refunds, and maybe for games that have like I'm just making these numbers up. I think I've read something about this before, but I can't really remember. But this memory inside my head says it doesn't make that much of a difference, and people who play and enjoy the game, and even if they finish the game within 2 hours, most of them will not refund the game to support the developer. Yeah,
that's interesting. Yeah, no.
But maybe that's wishful thinking.
It also does sound like I personally view it as like a layer of stress that I think the developer shouldn't have to worry about in the same way. Like in the same way I like the analogy of like, at least in the States, where so if people go to movies, every major theater chain has a rule that says in the first 15 minutes, if you don't like this film, you get a refund. But that's 15 minutes for a 2 hour experience where we're like, hey, you can make a game that's 90 minutes long, but we're still giving this 2 hour window, which I think is like the problem.
I think it's still a bit high. Like 1 hour would be more fitting, if even that high. Not sure how they came up with these 2 hours.
It definitely feels to me kind of this almost arbitrary. Again, like 2 hours, 2 hours to me seemed like the idea that had good intentions and it just wasn't thought through. But that's kind of more my gut spin at that one.
But I think on good old games, it's like endlessly refundable. They don't track you're just downloading a DRM-free game, right? I'm not sure if they're actually tracking anything. Okay, if you started through the launcher, maybe they will. But as far as I know, they have like unlimited refund time, and it works there too. So maybe we should all just forget about this 2 hour thing. But maybe we should pressure Valve to decrease the time.
It's almost like because of this, there's like an economic side, and we have to worry about how much this stuff's costing.
It's a bit weird to think about this because it doesn't have to do anything with the game, with the enjoyment of the game, with the experience. I've played many 30 minutes or less games that have impacted me more than like 10-hour games or more.
Because to me, I understand the logic of your game should work and there should be a checker for that. But like to me, I'm like, enjoyment's this arbitrary thing that like, hey, I walked into films that I don't like, but I don't realize after 45 minutes, and I'm still like, I don't know if I should get a refund because I didn't love this film. Because I walk in a theater and, the film works. That's what you're truly paying for, and the rest of it you're kind of hoping you like.
Yeah, it's just not a topic for movies, right? So, but it is kind of for games. But yeah, I hope this, I don't want to think about it anymore. Like I said, I'm now still a little below 2 hours and I don't care anymore. So be it.
No, yeah, that makes sense. Let's jump into your art style. So to me, when I immediately see it, I think there is a few games kind of the last few years that I kind of see where inspiration probably drew from. But do you mind kind of talking about kind of where you came up with this art style, this very like reflective, kind of 2D-ish, very very dark, at least for like the silhouettes and the characters kind of style. Like what kind of were you thinking of kind of when you started making this?
Yeah, so I have to start with saying I'm not an artist at all. Like I'm coming more from a programmer's background, and everything else is like self-taught through years and years of many game jams and stuff like that. And I would still say like the artist side is like my weakest side in game development. So as a solo developer, I'm doing everything, and I think the art side is the one I struggle with the most. So I was really like searching for a style that I could pull off with my limited skills. And yeah, I've made a ton of game jam games before, and this game Recollection is actually also based on a game jam game. And this is where I tested this silhouette art style. Silhouette art style is pretty easy to pull off, I think, but you can pull it off like in different qualities. Like there's the main inspiration for the art style is Limbo, and Limbo, I think, does a way better job at this than, for example, Recollection does now. But because they have like more sophisticated background elements, and like it just looks more cohesive because there was an actual artist's hand doing these things. So I'm just trying my best, and yeah, like I have a few artist friends that I can talk to and get some advice, and yeah, just trying to get the best result out of limited time and skill.
Of course, it's always that fight of all of that. Yeah. As we're talking too, like you're only like 2-ish weeks from release too. I'm kind of curious.
Like it's now 20 days, like April 17. Yeah.
So you're 20 days away, which in the grand scheme of game development is not that long. I'm curious, kind of immediately, kind of gutturally, like where was your reaction at in this? Kind of are you like stressed about it? Do you feel that hey, I've actually have good pacing going, kind of? Because obviously there's always that concern.
It's mixed, and it always changes between different states of mind. Like on one day I am super stressed out and think like, oh my god, there's still so much to do, and I like this state of mind where you think of everything at once, which is super stressful. Like what I still have to do is like a bit of QA, a bit of performance optimization, add some more translations to the game that are mostly already finished, and then do marketing. Yeah, these are pretty much the things I still have to do. And if they all come together at the same time, it's super stressful. And if I'm in a more easy state of mind, then I can view them like in a priority order. Like I have to do this first, and then this, and then this, and then it's much easier. But this constantly changes between each other, so it's stressful and relaxed at the same time.
Yeah, there is something. I think there is. I always have argued there's this like weird zen state of like when you're bug squashing, especially of like it's stressful. Don't get me wrong, but like it's still like I kind of like seeing this list and it starts shrinking and shrinking, but then it gets really stressful and it starts growing again. You keep going and you're like, this was half as long a minute ago.
Yeah. This bug list is. Like it's more a polish list for me. Like I have some testers, but most like bugs I fix pretty much immediately or try to fix. And yeah, wait, let me collect my mind for a second here. This list really, it got longer, then it got shorter, and working on this list is really relaxing. I think it's nice to add like, especially these polishing touches. It's satisfying to fix bugs. What's a thing and something that I have to also prioritize is fixing one thing or polishing one thing might lead to another thing or the same thing breaking. Like everything has a priority and a time estimate. Like I'm estimating how much time it will take and a risk estimate. So how high is the risk of this making the game go broken? And yeah, sometimes these things I just set them aside. But my polish list at the moment looks pretty good, like mostly low priority bugs or bugs that just happen, that are really weird and just happen for one of my testers. And like I can't reproduce myself and I have no idea how to fix them. So maybe they will stay in for the release.
God, those are the worst bugs when someone tells you about them and you're like, I can't do it. Like you like those are the worst. You're like, I need videos sent to me. Like I believe you, it's happening, but I can't do it.
Yeah, how are you gonna fix these? Like, can you please teleport me to your city and let me take over your computer? Like you could probably do this with remote desktop, but then there's these people. They also have like their lives, and it's a complex thing.
Also, wait until you deal with people on Steam who have custom monitor setups, and they're like, "Why don't you support this very specific like ratio?" And you're like, "Because I've never seen this before in my life."
I don't want to hear about this.
But yeah, so the game, as we're talking,
we'll see,
comes out and we said just under 3 weeks from the time we are talking. As we said, there's the two modes, kind of this more intensive kind of like, I'll deal with this more kind of relaxive mode. Do you mind kind of as we close this out kind of to talk about kind of, I think you touched them in broad strokes, like one or two types of mini games that the player kind of encounters that kind of to you kind of are really reflective of kind of the experience they should be expecting?
Yeah, I can do that. So yeah, since you said reflective, let's start with the water. Like it's a spot the difference mini game. So you have the water at the bottom of the screen and the objects that you already unlocked at the top of the screen. And some of the reflections are missing and you have to spot these. And in the second game mode, where there's always an obstacle coming in and throwing your progress back, there's like water pollution that is like just erasing these reflections and you have to find them anew. That's one example. Then we have, for example, trees. For trees, you have these tree stumps and then you have like really tiny branches going out of them. And just, I didn't mention this before, but all the interactions in the game, they don't need clicking or anything. It's just moving the cursor. It's just watching. This is also something really funny. Okay, now I'm getting distracted. I hope that's okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Like, a lot of testers, they are clicking on things, but they don't need to. But I'm not sure how to actually tell people what not to do, so I'm just letting them do it. So the tutorial just says to move the mouse, but people are so used to clicking. By the way, it's also playable with the gamepad, so you move the cursor with the stick, and yeah. Usually I don't like this in games, like especially like in ego perspective games, but it works surprisingly well in a relaxed game that is not so, like the second mode is more stressful, but it's still manageable. So where did I go off rail here? The trees, for them you just have to like grab, not really grab, but look at the branches and just drag them to their destination without clicking. So you just have to look in the direction of the destination and they are growing there and then they are full and there's little new branches coming out of them and in the end you have a full tree. And in the second game mode, for example, these branches are like cut back by an imaginary axe. Yeah.
So I'm curious. Actually, I'm curious because you said all of the interactions, right, are non-clicked based, right? So you just kind of move the mouse or interact with stuff on the screen. Was there a reason for that decision, or is it just kind of like, hey, this naturally happened, I was thinking about it, or is it kind of like purposeful of this lack of clicking being needed?
Well, it has maybe two reasons. First is like the ease of interaction. Like I wanted to have this game pretty accessible. So I wanted, for example, to have players be able to play it only using the mouse. So the left and right mouse keys are to move the character left and right. So there's like, I haven't talked about this before too. So there's this overworld where you move the character and you find the objects. And then when you found an object, you move into this interaction, and then you don't move the character anymore, but just do the mini game. And yeah, that's one reason to have it accessible for people who only want to use the mouse. So you can click left and right to move left and right and just move the mouse to interact. And the second reason is just, well, it's a metaphor for watching things. And like you're by watching things, you're just moving your eyes in a position. You're not like blinking would probably be the equivalent for clicking. Yeah, you're free to do that, but I felt like it's enough to do a lot of different interactions. Also, it's a constraint. Constraints are pretty cool in game development to not go all out into all kinds of directions. So yeah, also as a constraint. So these are the reasons.
Perfect. No, that makes a lot of sense. I was wondering if you kind of purposely put some sort of constraint on yourself, even to kind of while thinking of that stuff. So yeah, the game is Recollection. How much is, I know it might be in euros for you kind of, but how much should people expect to be paying for this game?
$5.
So $5. So perfect. So the game, and there's also a demo currently available on Steam. Is there any other spot we should be sending people, like to your Twitter or any of that stuff?
Yeah, sure. You can send them everywhere. I'm not sure how you're sending people, but yeah, I do have all the social medias. I also have a YouTube channel where I do also some tutorials and devlogs and stuff like that, talk about development. Lately, I don't have much time to do tutorials anymore, but this is going to pick up again after Recollection is finished. So yeah, also Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, everything is there. Just look for Erkberg. Like, yeah, Erkberg. It's a weird name to pronounce in English. Most people say Erkberg. But yeah, I think if people Google Recollection on Steam, I think it's the first.
It pops
thing.
up
on Steam.
You go on Steam, you can then hop to the website, and then you have links to all of your socials then on your website. We'll make sure to link to that. But I want to say thank you for your time today talking about the game, and I look forward to kind of the release. And best of luck finishing up these last few weeks. I always like to say to the developers last few weeks, try to make sure you get some sleep and try to keep your sanity.
I will. Definitely will. Thank you so much. Yeah, it was really cool talking to you.
Well, thank you again.
Okay, have a great rest of the day.
We are happy to announce that this episode of the SWW show is partially brought to you by Humble Bundle. Well, not really. We are part of the Humble Bundle referral program, and we just wanted to say that if you like really cheap games and maybe helping charity pending the Humble thing going on, all you have to do is go to humblebundle.com/partner equals SWW. That's right, humblebundle.com/partner equals SWW. And you just do your normal stuff, and it just kind of helps us get a couple bucks here and there. Maybe it helps AJ get his lights. Maybe it's Mike camera. Maybe we actually pay Corey for helping us out. But again, if you're going to go buy games anyway, it might be worth checking out. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to one of these interview episodes of the SWW show. I'm Mike, and today with me, two special guests to talk about their game. To get us started, do you guys mind introducing both yourselves and the game we're here to talk about?
Okay, I'll start. So I'm Alex. I'm the producer of the game, Paws of Coal, and also of the other game, Trip the Ark Fantastic, which is connected to the game, but more on that later. And Serena?
Hi.
Are you
Yeah, I'm here.
Here as well?
Yeah, I'm here. Hello. I'm Serena, and I am a character artist and a general artist for company Game Truck, and I worked as a character artist for Trip the Art Fantastic and Paws of Coal. I also work on other Game Truck games.
Perfect. Yeah. So as you guys said, you guys are part of Game Chuck, and we're here to primarily talk about Paws of Coal, and we'll also talk about the other game you guys mentioned. So as we're talking, Paws of Coal comes out really really soon on Steam. It go to either of you? I'm assuming as producer make more sense, but either of you make sense. Do you guys mind kind of introducing what is Paws of Coal for people who have not heard about it?
All right, so it's a very new game. There is very little chance that you've heard of it because it's actually it was part of a much larger game called Trip the Ark Fantastic, which a lot of adventure game fans might have heard of on forums and on events and so on. And this was meant to be a huge game set in the animal kingdom, and it's not done yet. It's a very big game, and we're looking for financing and so on. This is the usual indie development thing, you know. But what we wanted to do was a world, which I will talk about more. And then we decided to take a slice of this, you know, and make it into a small standalone story within this universe, within the universe of the animal kingdom and so on. The stories that are that we are exploring are usually stories of social troubles for animals. So it's like a fable, you know. It's animals, but it's actually talking about humans and so on. So the animal kingdom is in political troubles. You know, there's like strikes happening. There's problems with the animal kingdom is trying to reform into an animal democracy, and there's like different factions fighting for power and so on. And the game Paws of Coal starts in a little mining town, so coal miners, which are rabbits, hence the name Paws of Coal. They are striking because there has been an epidemic of an illness, a very tough but mysterious illness, which is happening to a few miners, you know, and they're getting affected. And they want the management of the coal mine to pay for the cure and find the cure and so on. And this is the start of the strike. And you, as the main character, you're a hedgehog. Hedgehog's scholar is a mining town and is trying to, his task is to actually somehow solve this problem, solve the outbreak, and also solve the strike, and make everything good. And this is like a small story set within this larger narrative of this turmoil in the animal kingdom which is happening, which is actually a backdrop to this larger game Trip the Ark Fantastic, which is also available actually even right now on itch.io as a demo. And the Paws of Coal actually is it's a game that's been in our possession for some time now. We've polished it up a bit, and we said, okay, you know what, let's release it for a small price on Steam, and let's see what people think about it. And the idea is if they like it, if it's positively reviewed, maybe we can keep making more of these small stories within this Animal Kingdom universe. You know, maybe people like this idea of exploring political and social and religious and whatever, all these issues in a little fable setting, you know, cute fable setting. That was the idea.
I'm curious kind of immediately, like when thinking about this, and obviously it touches on some very real topics, right? Between like mining stuff and pandemics and kind of like that. Where did you guys kind of, when thinking about the game and thinking about like how to design these systems, like at what line did you guys pull from actual history or actual events versus like try to at the same time make sure it is still this like fantastical world?
Okay, that's okay. I'm going to answer this one as well. So our inspiration was stuff like Animal Farm. So it's often the case that you talk about contemporary topics by using a fable setting. It's a way to somehow ease the depth and ease the problematicness of talking about big issues, and if it's a little bit more removed from the real world, and then people might be more likely to actually immerse themselves and learn about this topic. Whereas maybe if it was actual realistic humans fighting and so on, maybe that would be more too real, and maybe people would feel that it's too direct. So it's not maybe the weirdest thing is that the art style is cute, so you have a very deep theme which is for adults, obviously, to think about and so on, but the art is very cutesy. Here's Serena can say something maybe about her inspirations, so what was her trouble with making these characters come to life, and so on. Maybe this would be also a time for that.
Yeah, that'd be great if you don't mind talking about it. Obviously, as a character artist, sure. I'm assuming kind of there's a lot of options to choose from, right? And I do want to kind of immediately shout out. I do really like kind of this how like it looks like this kind of like animated characters. Like it reminds me of like a kid's animated movie, kind of this look. And I was kind of curious, like, when you kind of designing these characters, kind of what was going through your head.
All right. So I started working on like Trip the Ark Fantastic when like some visuals were already done. So I had to match up characters with the backgrounds, and that was a bit hard job to do because there were different artists for the backgrounds that we didn't really communicate well, but we figured it out after some time. So how I developed these characters is a great question because there was a lot of experimentation in the beginning, a lot of back and forth. I was sending like some designs, and like my colleagues said, yeah, this is good, no, this is bad, but generally I took like inspiration from like Animal Farm and old Disney characters without trying to like make a new style, which is not too obvious that it's like inspired by Disney too much. But yeah, I would say it was very experimental. I had a lot of artistic freedom when designing these characters. It was a lot of fun, honestly, more than it was stressful.
That sounds like always the best when you're like, it's more fun than stressful. But so you said obviously like there was like a lot of like you said Disney influence or kind of like that kind of stuff. Is there any like when you were designing this, was there any like character like that was your favorite design, or any of those that you like really like thought of probably more than others, or?
Well, not specifically, but like I really liked. I don't know if you guys know about the animator Don Bluth. He worked on old Disney characters, like and old Disney movies where he like made bad guys really scary, and like cute people, like cute characters really cute, and bad guys were like borderline really scary. So I was like going after that feel where I would make like characters really cute or really scary.
That's interesting. Obviously,
my favorite.
Oh, go on.
Yeah. I wanted to say that my favorite character in the game, in terms of art, is a very fat bunny who's guarding the gate to the mine, and his name is Hardhead Ed, and he's just chewing on this piece of it's a wonderfully made character art. It's cute when you see this huge fat rabbit, just sitting down, and you're trying to pass, and he says, no, you can't pass, and then just by the visuals of this guy, okay, like I don't have to be explained in the game that this is like a no-go zone. I understand. I'm not going to pass here. Like this is just a huge rabbit. Just forget about it. So these kinds of things are really yeah, so it's a little bit Disney. It's obviously some kind of caricature, but also I think it makes sense. It doesn't break away from the immersion that you say, this is stupid, this is for kids. It's fun, but it doesn't break the immersion.
I think it's really fun when you like have a contrast I think if it was just like if we made people instead of animals, then I think it would just be a dark story, honestly. But now when we have like like a bit of serious story and cute our characters, I think it gives it a wonderful contrast and actually makes it really interesting.
That's very interesting and something I don't know if I've like. It makes sense kind of conceptually when you think of this idea that animals kind of, even if it's a super dark subject matter, like make it seem more lighthearted. Did you, when you were designing them, ever think of like what their like human equivalent would be, kind of to kind of get that and then cartoon it from there, kind of, or is it kind of like in your mind's eye, kind of always the animals, and we just kind of had to make sure these characteristics were like visible on them?
Well, no, not really. I'd never thought of like human equivalents. I usually design them in my head first, and then I put an idea out. Like, if I got like a brief for, let's say, hard-headed, I would get a brief of his personality, and I would like think about it, search for some references, but I would already have his character in my brain. I just need to like pull it out, if that makes sense. Yeah, I usually would think about like their personalities, like their designs need to they can't just be generic because then it would not make sense. I'd really need to think about their personality, and their design needs to like some writing needs to be done first before I can even like make some characters, right? Their personality needs to shine through their designs, basically.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I want to kind of jump back in, kind of mechanically to the game, kind of just like an audience kind of gets a better idea, kind of. So obviously, we said it's kind of you're kind of exploring this kingdom to kind of deal with kind of this like with mining and kind of this uprising. What kind of like as a player, if you guys want to talk about kind of what is that loop to people, right? Is it kind of like I'm just going through exploring this story? Is it going through and like there's a lot more combat? Like I'm just kind of get like a better picture of that.
Okay, so there is no combat. So it's everything is the quests you have are solved by investigation. So the main character is a hedgehog. So he's it doesn't matter. He's a hedgehog, but he's a scientist, and he's trying to. Okay, so let's say he's trying to solve this outbreak, and he's talking to people, he's trying to find clues, and then the main mechanic, other than talking and investigating and so on, which is, just a basic dialogue tree mechanic, which you have in a lot of narrative games. What's unique in this game, I mean, there are other games with this, but what's the main crux is that you use these clues and you try to connect them in a certain way to form certain conclusions, or hypotheses. And then you say, okay, look, I've talked to this guy. He said he got a cough after drinking this and this. And then I talked to this guy. He said he sold him this kind of wine. So maybe this kind of wine causes the illness, And then you connect the two clues. You make the conclusion that maybe it's the wine, But you don't have to do this. You can also make the conclusion maybe it was something he ate, So you're playing with this space of clues. You're trying to connect them in certain ways to actually form conclusions, right? And what's actually happening is when you submit these conclusions to someone, the story moves forward. It moves forward even if it's the wrong conclusion, So maybe you didn't find the cure, or maybe in some other case where you're trying to fix some kind of machinery, maybe you didn't figure out how to fix it, and then you gave the wrong, you submitted the wrong hypothesis, and I don't know, the machine doesn't work, somebody's going to get fired. There are things like this, but the story moves on. It's not like you have to load, there is no lose state. It's just the world that moves on, and you can live with the consequences of your conclusions, So there is some weight to what you're doing. Maybe there's some replayability as well. Maybe people will want to try and see what happens next. But apart from this connecting of clues and walking around and talking to characters and checking out stuff, examining and so on, which actually feeds the clues and then you connect the clues. This is the main loop. And the extended loop is, of course, finding quests or side quests and performing them. And of course, they can open up new options and so on. Which can also lead to something else, and so forth and so forth. So that is the main thing how you solve the game. Of course, the game Paws of Coal is very short. It's just 3 hours. I mean, it depends on how well you play, but let's say it's around 3 hours. Which means that you don't have far-reaching consequences 10 hours into the gameplay. But, when you end the game, there are some things that happened. And the idea is, if people like the available, and the idea is maybe we can release another story. There's no story, and then it's in pre-game. Maybe this is referenced a bit. I mean, they're all standalone stories, but maybe if you help the miners with the strike, maybe in the other game you can read how the miners, got better conditions, and this long-term idea for these things to actually have a snowball effect and change the game, change other games in the series, and so on and so on. If we're going to be developing this huge universe further, right? But
I think Alex is
I think we just about to say, I think we might have just lost
Yeah,
him.
sorry.
You are fine, I think. I knew you guys were at, or at least he was at, wasn't it, what's the name of the conference you guys were at? Reboot? Is that it?
What?
He was at Reboot, wasn't he? I don't know if he still is.
Yeah, he's a reboot, yeah.
So it could be...
Probably they have like
the
really
hotel Wi-Fi could
bad
be a little...
internet. Yeah.
While we're waiting for him to try to figure out, I'm kind of curious, obviously, as you said, you were the character kind of designer kind of on this, and we were talking about that a bit. Was there kind of... When you obviously getting these backgrounds and these broad like ideas of how these characters should kind of function. Obviously, one of the big things with characters, right, especially when you look at like animation, is to make things like memorable, right? How was there any like pieces kind of in there, like if I look at like every character, how did you kind of make sure that each of them still kind of had like a piece of them that was like, oh, people will kind of remember this character kind of?
Well, in the Paws of Coal, there are not very different characters. Like, there are rabbits, but rabbits usually, well, in the game, they look the same, more or less. I think in the Arc Fantastic, when we get around to work on it, there's gonna be more diverse characters. But, like, 4 characters that were different, like, they had different models. Well, I don't know, like I said, it was very experimental, and I usually try to work like their designs show their personalities. Like, I don't know, it was really generic. Like, they were like, make a old rabbit that's a miner. I'm like, okay, he's definitely gonna have a mustache or something like rabbit equivalent of a mustache. I just see him like that, right? Like, ideas just start seeping in my brain, and I try to combine them and make them look okay. For hard-headed, well, apparently he's hard-headed, right? So, like, if you look at his character, he has a big old brain, like a big old forehead, and he looks really grumpy. I'm like, okay, so this guy's guarding the exit to the mines, and like, okay, so he needs to be grumpy, he needs to look like he really doesn't care about his job, he's just there to, like, chill. So I take all that into account, and I try to make them look interesting, and so far, it's worked, if you look at the characters. Hey,
sorry for jumping out. I don't know what happened. At what part did you lose me?
If you want to kind of talk about that again, I think at the end you were starting to kind of break up. We assumed it was kind of from the hotel Wi-Fi being a little funky. But
maybe, yeah. But I'm on my own Wi-Fi.
Oh.
But yeah, I just wanted to say that. By the way, yeah. If I'm actually at a conference right now in Reboot Develop in sunny Dubrovnik in Croatia. We're pitching the game here as well. But yeah, I wanted to say that the idea was for the game to be one in a series of standalone games, and these games would actually somehow connect if you not like in a serialized way, but in a way that the things you did in one game would affect a little bit something that you can read or find out about in other games, and then it would make you feel like your actions actually transfer from one game to another, even in little things, maybe just you read something in the newspaper and so on. But looking just at Paws of Coal, just as this first standalone game, you do have some things that you can do either deliberately wrong or accidentally wrong. And the game does keep moving on. It's just like your decision, and that's it. But someone might be not okay with it, and then they can load and try something else. But our main idea was for there to be no lose state, no win state. It's just a story, and however you go about it, something is going to happen, and you're either going to be happy with it or not. But that's the way the story goes, and in the end, there is some kind of conclusion, right? Either the strikers won or the management won, and so on and so on.
I'm very curious, right? Because in puzzle games and kind of games of this ilk, right? So as you said, players have to kind of make their own decisions, kind of looking at the clues around them and kind of really think about like what is real, what is fake, what is the correct answer. How did you guys kind of tune and think about this difficulty? Because like a common complaint now of looking back of like 90s and early 2000s puzzle games is like they were too obtuse, and then obviously you had some games that shift and get like really obvious. I'm kind of curious, you know, I talk about kind of how did you guys find that like balance for like the player to be able to think about a decision and think about, but like make sure it wasn't like either in their face or like so obtuse they would never get even what is probably the right answer.
So yeah, our goal was to doing science, and the idea was that we don't have the right answer. Maybe you didn't get the right answer. Okay, if you really talk to everybody and think about it, you'll figure out the right answer. But maybe you won't, maybe you do the wrong thing, but that's okay also, because also in, I don't know, let's say in science, you can do the wrong conclusion, and just the world moves on, you did some bad paper and fine, things happen, maybe we didn't want there to be like, no, you just made the wrong combination in this logical puzzle, try again. We wanted to say, okay, this is what you think, are you sure, are you absolutely sure? Okay, the story moves on. So there's a story from Trip the Arc Fantastic, from the demo. There's a demo of Trip the Arc Fantastic online, and it also has, of course, the same gameplay mechanic and everything. And in that game, you can falsely accuse a person. You can say, okay, this person planted the bomb, or this other person planted the bomb. And you can make a very solid case for both. And one of them is obviously wrong, but one person is just going to go to jail. So there is some kind of trade-off. People who like puzzles that are solvable are going to want to solve it in a right way, and they're going to want some immediate feedback that it is correct. Yes, you solved it correct, bravo. They don't want to say, okay, I found a cure, and then the doctor says thank you, and then 30 minutes later in the game the bunny is worse and not better, and it's like, oh, so I didn't find the cure, so why did the game let me move on? Well, it's that kind of game. We wanted to make a game that's actually like you're just moving on. It's a story, and you'll see what happens. Is it good? I think I also dislike some of the more difficult or obtuse puzzles in games, and we didn't want this to be a game where puzzles are what actually stops the gameplay. We wanted it to be more like more fluid. Let's say more fluid.
That makes a lot of sense. As we kind of get to the tail end of our discussion here, I was kind of curious if you guys don't mind talking about, as we've been talking about, obviously this is part of I would say broader game or a bigger thing, but as you talking about this next project from you guys, it's currently on, a demo is currently available on itch. Do you mind kind of, so people who didn't catch it, what is kind of your pitch for that upcoming game 2 kind of, and if we have any, even if it's very broad, kind of timelines on when we can start expecting to see more of it?
Yes, I'll answer the last thing first. So it's very difficult to put a timeline because the game is that game, the big one, is not currently in development because we're trying to secure finances so we can actually work on it. Of course, it's very difficult. Because adventure games are not as hot as they used to be, so publishers might be a little bit wary of financing huge projects. And we do want this Trip the Arc Fantastic game to be actually a very big sprawling epic story in this animal kingdom, So these are small stories, okay, some miners are striking, it's not the end of the world, but this Arc Fantastic story is actually about this society and that how it's actually collapsing. The kingdom is there's a revolution going on maybe, and which side is the main character actually, whether there's going to be actually a revolution with some anarchists and so on. So these are big kingdom-wide repercussions for your actions, and of course they also snowball, so that the game has to be very, very long with things like you're over the course of the game reading how, I don't know, some part of some force is more strong than the other, some faction has defeated another one and so on, and this is all happening in the background. So and the story is, of course, the kingdom, which was held by lions for so long, it was held by this belief that there is this mythology, let's say religion maybe, that all the animals came from this great big ark that housed all the animals, and the lions were the captains of it. And like all mythologies, it's very difficult to say if it's true, but as time goes on, animals don't believe in this mythology anymore. They want to depose of the lions, and then in an attempt to thwart the revolutionaries, the Lion King hires you, and you're like the famous scholar of the entire animal kingdom. Everybody knows you. You're like Einstein or something, and he hires you and says, okay, you have to prove that the ark exists, or disprove it, but you're the authority, so please prove that it exists, so that everybody will say, okay, yes, this mythology was correct, and the lions are actually the rightful heirs to this entire kingdom. They're so smart and so on. They helped us with a large flood thousands of years ago. And of course, then you have to investigate this all across the continent, try to find clues, whether there is this ark, whether something that, I don't know, some call it arc that they're talking about in the mythology. And so you have to connect all these clues across all these continents and so on. And yeah, maybe you help the king and then the status quo is preserved. Maybe there's complete anarchy and so on and so on. So very big, sprawling story in the same universe with actually the same main character. And if you play the demo, it's in medias res. It's in the middle of the story where actually someone has planted a bomb in front of this arc thing, which might be the right arc or might be the wrong arc. Maybe just some kind of plant by the king to show that there is some kind of arc. But in any case, somebody planted the bomb, and you have to puzzle your way out of this situation where you're at the dockyards with a huge bomb. So that's the long short of it. The gameplay mechanics are the same, so you're talking, connecting clues, a little bit more polished in the Trivia Arc Fantastic game. So if people play the two games, the UX is a bit different, so the clue mechanic acts a bit differently, but the gist of it is the same. You connect clues, you make conclusions, you submit these conclusions, you tell them to someone, and that's how the quest moves on. And of course, the art style is drastically different. So Paws of Coal and other standalone games are in this old Disney, like 80s cartoon style, and for this main big game, we decided a different style. But maybe Serena can say more about this process of changing the art style and what the inspiration was here and so on.
Yeah, sure. I can jump in. Yeah, so we made a really big change on the new version of Arc. We decided we're gonna make it like a smaller game and like in like one room instead of like a Paws of Coal. There's like a mine, there's Charles's laboratory and stuff. We just like made this like one map. Basically, I worked on the backgrounds and another artist worked on the characters this time. We took a lot of inspiration for the background from Monkey Island and like other video games that are like adventure, point and click and such. I don't quite remember which ones those were, but I do remember I used a lot of like Spiritfarer references, and I used Monkey Island references.
Yeah. So Serena, you're talking about the demo. The demo has just this one scene. So yeah, the demo is very short. It's just one scene on the dockyards. There is no, like in Paws of Coal, walking all around a huge mine, going, like 1 kilometer to the left or to the right. So this is a very, very small, contained little 10-minute, maybe 20-minute experience. I think it's good for a demo to be short and to explain everything and leave you wanting more.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, I want to say this, both of you, thank you for taking time to talk about today about both Paws of Coal and your hopefully upcoming project. As we said, Paws of Coal, by the time this comes out, will be available on Steam, or like basically coming out. So either go buy it or go wishlist it on Steam. You can go find the other demo on your guys' itch page. You guys are part of Game Chuck, which is game-chuck.com. Is there any other spot we should be sending people to go look at you guys' projects?
No, you've done a great job. Thanks a lot. And hopefully people will like the games. And I don't know. You can also, you can on our website add yourself on our Discord and talk about the game with us and follow our progress. There are other games we're doing as well. So yeah.
Perfect. Well, I want to say thank you to both of you again, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
The SWW Show and all of its affiliate podcasts are podcast by me, Mike Maroney, and AJ Losi, sometimes by our contributors, including Corey King. You can follow the SWW Show on social media at the SWW Show, or sooner or later you go to patreon.com/SWW to help us out. Thank you. We hope you enjoy the rest of your day.